What is up, guys? This video is about how to disagree. I want to start by talking a little bit about the importance of disagreements and how I see it. We don't all think alike. I think that much is clear. We're all unique individuals with unique thoughts. And it's important to embrace that idea. Otherwise, you're just resisting nature, which is a waste of energy. A couple key things that I think I didn't really understand when I was younger, just because of really poor examples of probably never disagreeing in a healthy way. But disagreements do not require conflict, and disagreements are healthy and honest, or they can be, at least if done properly. The more you intentionally build relationships that include disagreements, the broader experience you get to have and the broader relationships you get to have, the stronger relationships you get to have, because you both get to demonstrate kind of your unique perspectives on the world and unique perspectives on events and situations that you both experience. If everyone you know agrees on everything, one, you found a utopia, which doesn't exist. So either some or all of you are lying, or you think really nothing of actual value. Disagreement is a key thing that I had to learn, is not personal, and it definitely should not be personal. Proper disagreement is not an attack on the person, it's an attack on the idea. Probably don't even consider it an attack. It's just presentation of your perspective. So in order to do this, I mean, one of the fundamental things I think you need to get comfortable with is just saying, I disagree. And I think it helps in general to be very specific and to be clear. So anytime I disagree, I think it's important to try to seek and ask for understanding. I mean, I want to be sure that if I think I disagree, I know what I'm disagreeing with. Because oftentimes I think we have an idea, or I think we have an idea, and we're usually wrong. And then we end up disagreeing with a point that was never made. It could be a very similar point, or it could be what we heard, but it's just not the same. What I would also say is you don't really have to go into it any deeper unless they ask you to. Don't necessarily dive into this big, long rebuttal and tear apart their argument or tear apart their point, or try to, if they don't want to have the conversation. It's comfortable enough, or it can be enough to just say you disagree. And if they want to have the conversation, then move forward with it. I think it's also important to be gentle. It doesn't need to be aggressive, even if it's a very uncomfortable situation. I think it's important to disagree, but you can be very gentle. So I do think, like I said, a warning is to be sure that you're arguing the same point. So one of the most important parts is to seek clarity throughout. Asking questions such as, are you saying, do you mean, will you explain? These are the kind of key questions that I ask whenever I'm into either a sensitive conversation or one in which I disagree, or one I think I disagree in. Also, like, the end of a disagreement doesn't have to be agreement. Ultimately, it's just, I hear you, I understand you, and I can still disagree with you. You don't have to agree with everybody. The unique understanding of individuals is that we have unique thoughts. Like, that's part of it. So accepting that is just something we have to come to terms with. And it's not always about being right on either side. It's about understanding one another. So sharing our unique thoughts provides for a greater understanding. I would say the biggest thing that I think is to not hide from the world. If you don't disagree when you feel pretty strongly about an issue, you just shut yourself in. And those feelings, they'll bounce around. And depending upon the importance of the relationship or how repetitive it might be that you're in these scenarios, it can be very stressful and cause a lot of anxiety. And ultimately, I think it's important to just speak your mind so that way you feel a little bit freer in the world. Some things that you stand to gain by disagreeing. which is weird because it can be so uncomfortable. Ultimately, a stronger relationship. If done properly, you'll be able to better understand each other. You might know that something could ultimately bother somebody, or they don't want to talk about an issue, or you better understand their viewpoint of an issue. It's an opportunity for you to change and grow. Ultimately, by disagreeing, if you hear out their point further and better understand their point, you might change your mind. And changing your mind is often just growth because it's a different perspective of the world. And at the end of the day, it's an opportunity for new ideas. I think that I often say that, disagreement and hard conversations is where the money's made, because one, a lot of people don't want to do it. And a lot of people won't have conversations like this, which I think leads to the opposite of what I just said, what you stand to gain. Leads to weaker relationships, leads to a lot of stress and anxiety in different settings. It leads to a constraint of creativity because nobody feels safe. You're constraining your thoughts and they're probably constraining theirs. And so we don't get vocal and we don't talk about different ideas, and there is no element of safety that is created. So by disagreeing in a very healthy way, one, we establish that it's okay to do so, which I think is incredibly important for a relationship of any kind. And I think it creates an environment or a culture, depending upon kind of the setting or the circumstances, of safety for that, which then ultimately fosters creativity. Without safety, people aren't going to be creative. They're not going to be open. They're not going to be honest. They're going to be closed off. They're going to be restrictive. They're not going to share. So you really want to counter this by creating a safe space to argue, to have disagreements, to talk out sensitive issues, to talk about any issues, and to really kind of share openly. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully it gives a little bit of perspective. I think disagreements are probably a key thing that a lot of people miss in life, the ability to have a healthy disagreement. So give it a shot. You can't lose if you don't quit.